Hey, I'm doing good. How are you?
Right.
Alrighty, I guess we're live right now. How's it going, everyone? Good morning or good afternoon on the guests like time zone. This is Robert, and thank you for tuning into the podcast. And we're just going to be chatting for a little bit and just discuss live acting, just pretty much everything in between. So I'm pleased to have Miss Simone Serra in the corner, and we're just going to be having a nice, lovely little conversation. So I guess my first question is, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I think we've already asked this, but I'm doing fine.
We
Just
already
woke up.
we
Yeah,
had a
literally
little
woke up.
rapport before we
Yeah,
start.
just woke up like, I don't know, an hour or two ago, but my day is just getting started. And I know that it's kind of pretty much the same for like a lot of people who's specifically like on the Pacific time zone, like our our schedules are kind of a little wonky, but regardless, we're just making the most of it. So it's already October. I can't believe it.
I know, I know. And yes, by the way, to anybody who's listening, I'm on the East Coast. So Robert's in California and I'm in Brooklyn, New York. But yes, it is definitely, it's also feeling like fall over here too. So yeah, I can't believe it's
Yeah.
October either.
Yeah, my birthday just passed, and so now it's kind of like, okay, so I'm kind of getting back in the groove of like, okay, now it's time to catch up on work.
Yeah. Well,
Whoop de
happy
doo.
belated birthday.
Thank you. So, I guess to start this off, like, I guess we could just discuss like how this year has been going, like 2023, if you want to list off any particular like, I don't know, goals or anything big that you've done this year, just to start us off a little icebreaker, so to speak.
Yeah, for sure. Gosh, oh my God, yeah, that's right. 2023 is almost over. And I mean, I know it's crazy. 2023, I would say it was a pretty great year. In the beginning of the year, I was trying to make it a goal that I wanted to um more transition into doing voiceover, hopefully to do it full time or make it the sort of the full-time gig. And there was a job that I was at for almost 9 years that by the end I was not crazy about. And so in January, I decided to finally transition and move on from there. So I left that job in the beginning of January. And then in April, I decided that I wanted to start coaching people one-on-one for voiceover if they were interested in doing learning about voiceover, how to get started, or if they already are involved in voiceover, to help them with their auditions, just sort of like hone their skills. To anyone and everyone who wanted to get involved in the voiceover industry, I wanted to help them, and so it was kind of scary, you know what I mean, like to sort of make the leap to finally say, I think, yeah, I'm going to actually do this as hopefully my secondary income or like an actual business, an operating business. And then from there, because I was promoting that I was offering to be a voiceover coach, I had posted about it on LinkedIn, and one of my old teachers from my acting studio had found my post or had came across it, and I hadn't spoken to him in years. And he's the head of the Meisner department at the NYU Tisch Drama, and he asked me then if I wanted to start teaching the third year Meisner students at NYU, like an intro to voiceover class. And so I'm now officially have the position as a teacher or professor at NYU, to as an introduction to voiceover. So that's kind of cool. Like that was a cool goal that I thought, like, I mean, I always wanted to teach, but I was very afraid to sort of take that step. There's always sort of like the voices in your head that tell you like, oh, that stop you from actually doing the thing that you want to do. Because you either say, oh, I'm not ready, or, I don't know if I know what I'm doing. And so you just sort of have to kind of take the leap. And I did. And this is kind of what came from that, like kind of putting yourself out there. Once you put yourself out there, you'll be surprised of what will catch you when you do. So that's been 2023 in a nutshell.
Yeah. Mine's has kind of been like, how can I describe it? It's sort of like, okay, it's definitely like the transitional type of uh career that yeah, it's kind of odd to describe it because like for me I'm starting to take this more like okay, I'm submitting to talent rosters and I'm in the process of making a demo, so it's time to step up my game, and I've been getting a lot more amazing opportunities and just a lot more stuff that has been handed my way, a lot of which that I cannot discuss about because you cannot break those NDAs, folks. Don't do that. But yeah,
Yeah.
just gotta respect them. But respect, respect them. So yeah, definitely got to keep that in mind. So it's kind of been like, you know, at least the one of the biggest like caveats like during the course of the pandemic is all of us have been recording in our booths, home studios. We've been doing this more remotely, and honestly, like if it's not for the pandemic, like I'm not sure if we have like as many like big um I'm not really sure if we would have had like this many like so many doors that have been opening after 2020, because I know that we could discuss about how it hasn't really been the best time for everyone, but one of the one of the many silver linings or bright spots is that we've been having a lot more like, oh my gosh, like we haven't had this like before COVID, and it's like okay, so at least you won't have to deal with traffic or deal with anything else like getting out of the house or just yeah. But one of the things that I really do miss is like, I know it's really not the same as like being in the studio and really working with the clients, directors, and your other actors.
Mhm.
Um, because I know for a lot of this, we do record from our booths. And a lot of this stuff is we're usually like doing this alone and remote. So it can kind of get pretty lonesome at times, but at the same time, I wouldn't really trade it like for voiceover. I wouldn't really trade it for anything else, if I'm gonna be honest. So that's pretty much my 2023 in a nutshell.
Yeah, I hear you for sure. I mean, it is definitely like a learning curve. I mean, and also too, that's something to be said even about acting as well. I mean, if it's not only voiceover, but now people who are or actors are having to record themselves like from home in terms of like self-tape, and you have to learn how to be your own, lighting designer or editor to edit then your takes. And same thing with voiceover. It's a learning curve that then ultimately, I don't know if I would have learned unless I really had to, because I always would say, oh, I'm not good at the technical side of things. I'm not really good with computers. I'm not really good with editing. I don't, I just sort of only wanted to do the acting part of it. But unfortunately, not unfortunately, the business, is always constantly evolving, and you always have to be evolving with it. And because if you don't, then you'll also kind of get left behind. So you sort of have to learn these things, and it's good that you do, because that only just strengthens your skills and also your mindset. And you go like, oh, I actually can overcome the thing that I thought that I wouldn't be able to do, and I can do it. Um, and yeah, but definitely, I agree with you. It can definitely be lonely at times. It's a lot of work that you're doing by yourself. Um, so I hear you. But thankfully we have a community usually to lean on to talk about how lonely it could be.
Totally.
Yeah.
So this does bring me to the next question.
Mhm.
I mean, like for voiceover, particularly because I'm, I'm based in LA, so I'm not really too super familiar. I mean, even though I do research, I'm not really familiar with the New York, see, because I'm not based in New York, so I wouldn't really comment too much on. Because I know that for voiceover in general, um, like particularly like when you look at LA and then you go to New York, like it's like how can I say this? Um, Oranges and apples is pretty much what I would like to say. So because like LA is a lot bigger and New York is kind of like Okay, so you got like, some anime companies, or I know it's really big for Broadway and musicals and that stuff. Um, so what I wanted to ask you is like, how has the New York voice acting industry, or just pretty much in general, what have been some of the biggest like, challenges and hurdles that you've seen, or like some of the biggest changes that you've noticed over the course of how long you've actually been working in the business? What are some of the biggest ones that you've noticed? Like as far as New York, or it could just extend to the entire industry, like all of VO in general.
Yeah.
What have you noticed over the
Yeah, I
course,
mean,
especially over the course of the pandemic, of course? Yeah,
yeah, for
yeah,
sure.
totally
I mean,
not kidding.
yeah, I mean, for me, really for me personally, and I know definitely because I started in voiceover, really started working in voiceover in the beginning of 2019. And so I had a full year where I was like actually going out on auditions where my agency would say, give me a call or an email and say, hey, you have to then arrive tomorrow at 10 a.m. at this particular studio for this audition for this casting director. And then I would go walk in and do it and then leave and then go about my day. And, you know, and that, so I did a full year of that. And also in the agent's office, they had an actual recording booth and studio there where if you wanted to, they would give you the option and say, if you want to record this from home, you can, or if you want to come into our studio, you can. And I would always choose the option of going into their studio because I didn't really have my setup like perfected just yet because I live in New York. My closets and space was very small. And so I would always just choose that option. And then, of course, when 2020 happened, I had no other option but to have to then start to do all of that on my own. So basically, like exactly what I was just saying before, is that the biggest change, or at least for me, was learning not only just to be then a voiceover actor, but having to learn other aspects of the voiceover business, um, to really then not only also to rely on my agents just to get me work. I would then go, oh, okay, I can actually be an entrepreneur and start to then submit for these auditions, of course, like on my own. But then by learning how to do that, you also have to understand that when you submit for an audition, okay, well, understanding industry rates or like how much you want to get paid, how much you quote is your rate, the type of work that then that involves, having to learn just like all the other aspects of the business just besides recording or auditioning, was the biggest lesson I think for me and especially for a lot of people because really truthfully voiceover, or a lot of voiceover actors for many many years who have been doing this, um, said, oh, when 2020 happened they went, actually we've been doing this from home for a long time. You know what I mean? Like audiobook narrators, a lot of voiceover actors have actually been doing a lot of their work from home for a long time. And so the ones who were newer to the business then sort of had to, like I said, it was a learning curve of figuring out then how to navigate into this new way or navigate yourself and go, okay, I have to now pick up other skills that are besides the acting part of it. And that's really detrimental and important because, again, if you're only also just relying on your agents to get you work, then if you want to be doing it full time, well, then you also have to be submitting yourself and navigating, okay, as somebody who's now operating my own business, how do I do that? And to do that, you have to understand the business. So it's been a lot of just learning and taking in and um, you know, and also networking and meeting people and asking people like, hey, how did you navigate your way through this? How do you do this? How would you say, like, would you approach this particular contract? Or like, how would I go then to this client and say, hey, actually, you know, this is my quote and here's why. So yeah, that's and I mean, and I don't know necessarily if there's really that much of a difference between New York and LA in learning and doing that. I from what I know, I work with CESD, which is a talent agency here in New York, but they are also based in LA. And I from what I know, they've actually closed a lot of their agencies, or at least the recording studios in their offices. I think they maybe only have like two operating right now. So the great thing about voiceover is that really you can do it anywhere. It doesn't really matter what city you're in. You can really do it from anywhere. But definitely there's been a shift in the business, but I don't know if it's necessarily if it's different between like city to city. I think LA might be doing a lot more where local hires, where if you book a job, that then you could go into a recording studio and then do it. But a lot of my auditions, if I book an audition, a lot of it is just doing it from my home studio. But yeah.
Yeah, I actually didn't know that CESD. I knew that they were also in New York, but actually didn't realize that they closed, shuttered a lot of their. I mean, I know you mentioned two, but I don't know. We could be wrong, but so
Yeah.
far I believe there's only two that are
Yeah.
operating right now.
I think
Yeah.
they, yeah, they had like 11 studios or something, or they had 11 like kind of recording studios or something like that in their LA offices. From what I remember somebody mentioning that they had a little bit more operating, but they've sort of shut it down because again, also all of that costs money. You know what I mean? Like it's having to keep those things open and or booking somebody talent that then books a job as opposed to having to send them into a recording studio when now, especially because the pandemic was something that helped everybody realize, well, this is all accessible to do from home. Why would they put the money out to pay talent, pay people, to rent a studio, pay an engineer, all of those things to have to be there when they could literally cut their costs and save a buck, if they know that, the talent can just do it right from home.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, pretty much couldn't have said anything else about that. Um, but I was just kind of curious, like, was VO kind of something that always was like, was that kind of like something that you've always wanted to do, like, since you were a kid, or was there like other like career paths that you were on prior to starting a career in, doing VO and whatnot?
Right. No, actually, no, VO was never actually the goal for me. I mean, I was an actor and voiceover VO, voiceovers are, or voiceover talent, they're actors also. I mean, because voice over acting is acting. And I was just always an actor, and the bedrock of all of my experience was really in theater. And I always wanted to do film and TV work. And, but no, I never anticipated getting into voiceover. There was one, I would always get maybe clues, uh, over time. There would be people that would say to me, "Hey, have you ever thought about doing voiceover? Like you actually kind of have a nice tone of your voice or this or that." And I would always just be like, yeah, no, I don't know. No, not really. I have no idea how I would even get started in it. So no, it was never the goal. Um, but I also got into voiceover at a time when I was very close to giving up acting, like, or giving up being an actor. I really was sort of lost, or I was feeling very down on myself when I was not, uh, quote unquote, doing well. But what does that really even mean? You know what I mean? Like, I wasn't really booking any work, or I just would always get people that would say, "Oh, yeah, you're great, but maybe just not yet. You're not ready yet." And I would get very frustrated by that. Until then, I didn't really kind of know what else to do. And I felt like maybe this isn't the right path for me anymore. Because I was also getting older and I thought, I like security. I like, I want to have like a life that I also enjoy and not have to always struggle all the time. Um, but but then a friend of mine had taken a voiceover class with a casting director that she had really loved. And she said, "Hey, you should give this a try." Where she had told me that she had just had finished taking this class. And then that kind of piqued my interest a little bit and said, "Well, tell me more about it." And she did. She said he was really wonderful. And I thought, okay, well, I mean, I don't have anything else going on, so I might as well just give it a shot. And I did. And then the class was only 6 weeks long, but it was so much fun. Like the guy who was teaching the class was fantastic and he was really lovely. And he just knew his stuff. Like, but he was also a casting director too, so he just taught in a way that's very much felt like I was like, oh, he's speaking my language in a way that I can really kind of understand this and also make it enjoyable for myself. I don't really have anything to lose. And because I had no expectations of that it was going to go anywhere or that this is going to be the thing that like, will take me off or anything. Instead, I just really was open just to trying something new. And from that, when his class was over, I thought, oh, that was cool. Great. On to the next. And then a few weeks later, he emailed me and said, hey, do you want to come in and audition for me for something? And then I was like, okay, sure. And then I did. And then, I didn't get it, but then he emailed me the next week and said, come in again for another audition. And then again, I didn't get it, but still he kept calling me in until then he asked if I had a demo. And then I passed my demo along to him. And then he passed it along to CESD. And then that's how I got a meeting with them. And then that's how I started working with them.
It's a really cool story, by the way.
Thank you. I mean, thanks. But it's like it's always weird because sometimes I always, especially back in the day when, like I said, like when I was in that period of my life where I was very lost about what I wanted to do, or just I felt very bitter. I was getting to the point as an actor where I was becoming bitter, and I knew that was a sign that was not a good sign. And whenever people sort of tell those stories that it was just like, oh, I just sort of was essentially, I would say maybe, just at the right place at the right time. But sometimes, I don't know, like, I don't know necessarily if that was really true. Like I said, like, I just sort of was like I hope, is it okay to curse?
It's PG.
Sure. Okay. Well, I was just like, I was in a position where I went, you know what? Oh, well, like, who knows what's going to come for this? But if I do, if anything does, great. If not, then I'm in no worse position than I was before. And from that, because like I said, like it just offered me the freedom to really just be open to play around and have fun. And because of that, I think that was something that he probably noticed or saw, and there was no desperation. Like I wasn't taking his class because I wanted to build a relationship with him, or because he's a casting director. I really didn't know him from Adam. You know what I mean? I didn't know him from anybody else. And I just wanted to go in and just try something. And so I used to, when you hear those stories sometimes when you're an actor, especially like I was saying before, when I was in a position where I was very lost, I would have probably, me back then, would have rolled my eyes and was just like, oh yeah, another person that just sort of happened to be at the right place at the right time and just meet this casting director. And now all of a sudden you're working in voiceover. Like I would have, I don't know. I don't know if I would have maybe believed it or would have had faith that something like that could happen to me, you know? Um, but yeah, but it did, because like I said, like I didn't really, I went into it just like with, hey, let me just try something. Let me try something new. I was curious about it. And then it led to this. It led to something completely unexpected that, yeah, voiceover was never the goal, but I love it. I actually really love it.
And this is pretty much how I feel.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So after, like, because I know, isn't it kind of really, isn't it just a wonderful type of feeling when you are honestly on the verge of giving up, and then somewhere along the way, voiceover just was like, hey, um, here's something for you. And here you are.
Yeah. I
Isn't it
mean,
crazy how life works?
it's crazy. Yeah. And you always, well, but you know what, though? You always hear those stories, right? You always do sort of hear
Yeah.
those stories. Like, I was just about to give up. And then all of a sudden I booked the show that then launched my career. You know what I mean? Like it always ends up happening that way for the most part. I mean, or sometimes it does, or you just have to say to yourself, like, okay, something's not working. So what can I do, or how can I shift my mindset, to so that I can be happier? You know what I mean? Like, because sometimes also too, it's okay to give up. Like it's okay to realize when something's not working for you. It's okay to realize. And sometimes those conversations if anything, like are really brave to have with yourself to be like, you know what, maybe this isn't for me. And that is okay. At least I know I tried, you know, at least I know I tried. And if you can say that to yourself and say, at least I know that I really gave it my all, and maybe this isn't the path for me, I can be at peace and I can be okay with that because I really know that I gave it everything that I could. And if you feel like maybe you haven't or you didn't, then I would say, like, okay, well, then now just give yourself a reset. Maybe you just need to pause and then go, okay, maybe I just need to take a step back for a minute, live my life, enjoy time with my friends, enjoy, picking up a new hobby. Because sometimes if you pick up a new hobby when you're taking a break, that could be then the thing that then you actually ultimately end up doing. You know what I mean? Like with, I don't know, maybe you become, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
totally get you.
Yeah.
I was just like literally when times were slow, when it came to voice acting, I literally just started doing like these, like I just started picking up writing again, like scripting. And you know what? That was kind of the most fun that I've had, like pursuing something, like even as a hobby, or it could be professional down the line. You just never know. But I just had the most fun being so creative with what I'm doing. Just typing something and writing up stories because that's definitely something that kind of drew me into acting, like just creating stories and just letting my vision really come to life, you
Yeah.
know? Um, and that was actually going to be my next question.
Mhm.
Um, so as far as hobbies go, like what is something that you've been picking up as of recent? Well, lately for
Ooh,
the last couple of years. Yeah.
for hobby, oh gosh, in the
Yeah.
last few years, hobbies. Hmm, that's a really good question. I
Yeah.
actually,
It can be with life in general.
yeah, I mean, so I bought and it's called an Insta 360 GoPro. Like it's this tiny little GoPro camera that actually, well, actually I didn't buy. My husband got it for me for Christmas a couple years ago, and I take it with me on my trips, like whenever I go on vacation somewhere, and it's compact and tiny enough to sort of then like hold in your hand, and so it's so I always will be filming. I'll just like I kind of just do constant like B-roll, like as I like am walking through the streets of like a new city, or when we go out to eat or something like that, like on vacation, and or if we're, going swimming in the ocean, it's also waterproof and stuff. And I'm just filming all the time. And then I'll always take the footage and piece it together and edit it to make it sort of like its own little mini movie. And because I've learned, especially doing voiceover, I love also sometimes the editing process. I actually really, I figured out that from long ago when I first started voiceover and said, I don't know how to edit, I don't know how to do any of those things, and I don't want to know how to do those things. Once I learned how to do it, I actually started to really enjoy it. And so I'm taking then the stuff that I filmed and kind of create these like little mini movies and then put music over it. And that's kind of a hobby that I feel like is something that I want to continue to grow and be better at because I actually really like doing it. And it still makes me feel like I'm being creative. You know what I mean? If I'm not acting or if I'm not doing voiceover, that's an actual hobby that makes me feel as if like, oh, I'm still kind of, doing something for me that fulfills me in a creative way. And I really, really, really love it. And I kind of want to keep going with it. I'm like, I know I want to go on a million vacations and try to go and film all these things. Or even if it's just around like your neighborhood, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know, just kind of it's been really fun. That's been a fun hobby for me.
Yeah. And it's nice to travel and just, I literally just came back from vacation, so
Oh,
it's
cool.
nice to just,
Where
I'm
did you
sorry?
go?
In Hollywood, like there was a symphony going on this weekend and it ended up on like the news, I think.
Uh-huh.
So that's that's really cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's what I decided to do. Like I was gone for the weekend, just came back yesterday, so that's why I'm kind of like, oh, so I'm back in the, working type of
Mode.
mindset.
Yeah.
Have to adjust getting back to that after you've spent the last few days like away from home, you know what I mean?
Sure. Yeah, I do.
Yeah. But it's really nice though to just go outside and refresh. Like that's what I pretty much have to do. Like if I needed to step outside and take a break, that's what I have to do because it's good. Good, just got to get that vitamin D in. Just got to get that good old sunshine and
Yeah.
whatnot. So,
Yeah, I agree.
uh, but what are some of the biggest like I think I discussed like challenges and hurdles earlier, but what would you say are some of the biggest like obstacles, if that's the right term, to overcome working as a full-time just working as an actor, just working as an artist, period.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, probably the biggest obstacle I would say that I've always had is really just sort of um a lot of second guessing myself or not trusting myself, not trusting my instincts. And I think that that always just comes from a place of like, thinking like not good enough, not good enough, not good enough. Um, and you know, I think really overcoming like the inner critic like in your head is the big has always been like the biggest obstacle for me, and especially in voiceover, having, like we were talking about before, now that we have to do everything from home and that we're doing it all on our own, we have to also be our own directors, if you will. We have to learn how to self-direct ourselves. And so to send in an audition and then we can be so critical of ourselves and really just think like, oh no, if I just do it one more time, let me do it again, it could be better, it could be better, it could be better. And really just trying to get it quote unquote perfect when it's never going to be perfect. And also they don't want it to be perfect. Whoever is listening, they just want to hear you and what you have to offer, what you bring to the table, you bringing your own authentic, unique self and your interpretation to then ultimately what's in front of you, whether it be a script or, a scene that you're doing, like anything. And I think that that's always that. And I mean, it's not even that I've even overcome it yet. Like I still battle with it, but it becomes easier over time if that's something that you really want to change, because for years I really stayed always stuck in that place. And I think I'm still constantly working at that, like having to overcome the inner critic in my brain. um and I think I say that that's probably the biggest one for sure.
Yeah. So, despite all of that, what have been some of the biggest projects that you've worked on? What would you say that left a huge positive impact in your personal life and in your career? So, what are the ones that you look back on and you say to yourself, wow, I can't believe I'm actually doing this, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I guess personally, I mean, it still has to do with voiceover, but really the fact that I'm teaching at NYU is a huge personal accomplishment in a way that I thought like, oh gosh, like I never, ever in a million years would have imagined that I would be teaching here. I mean, I remember NYU being like my dream school to want to get into when I was going to college many years ago. And I remember thinking that like, oh, I could never be smart enough to get in there. I didn't really have the best grades in school. I wasn't really that good of a student. And really just because I wanted to be an actor and that was all that I cared about. So I don't know if I really kind of put that much effort into school. Not that I didn't put in effort. School did not come easy to me. And so I would have loved to have gone like, to a big university and that was always my dream school, especially the Tisch drama department. And so the fact that I'm teaching there now is blowing my mind. It just blows my mind. I can't believe that it's happened, but I'm really proud of that because I also, too, when that offer first came to me, I thought like, oh no, I can't do that. Like I was immediately, my first response was to say no, because I thought, oh, I'm too scared. I'm too scared. What if I'm not good? What if I mess up, or what if I give them the wrong information? All of these things that was really just trying to protect myself from failing, when really it was like, well, what if I actually could be good at it? What if I could succeed, And so I'm so happy that I said yes to it, because it's awesome and it's going really well. And I think professionally, the biggest thing was probably doing the Late Show with Stephen Colbert, a voiceover, two voiceover spots for that show because I used to watch Stephen Colbert on a show from a long time ago that was called Strangers with Candy, and it was on Comedy Central. Do you know that show?
We're going bang.
We're going way back. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I used to watch that when I was in middle school because it was on at the time. That's how old I am. And I used to watch that show and Stephen Colbert, nobody made me laugh harder than Colbert on that show. And it was so much fun. And so the fact that I got to do two voiceover spots for that his show, his late night show, is a really, really, really cool circle moment that feels like too unbelievable to even comprehend that actually happened. That's it's really cool. It's really cool.
Totally.
Yeah.
Um, there's a lot more we could discuss. I'm definitely going to split this into part two, so definitely stick around. And yeah, this has been a lot of fun. I think we got a lot of, we've discussed quite a few topics for part one. So if you guys enjoyed it, definitely stick around for part two, either today or tomorrow, either or. But regardless, yeah, I really love this conversation so far. If you liked it, let me know in the comments, and I'll definitely see you guys in the next part eventually. So until then, toodaloo. Okay. Welcome back, and now we're just gonna finish this off by talking about influences because I know you mentioned Steve Colbert, and by the way, congrats on the getting those spots. I mean, that's like wow.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you.
Yeah, so I know you mentioned Steve Colbert, but what are some of the other influences that have left like an impact on you as an actor and as a person that you want to give a
Yeah.
shout out to?
Yeah. I mean, well, it's funny. I mean, on that show that I was talking about, that Colbert was on, her name's Amy Sedaris. Amy Sedaris is an amazing comedian who I absolutely also love and adore. I mean, she created that show. She wrote on that show. She's a huge like influence. And I think like I really kind of appreciate that somebody who then like takes an idea and runs with it in a way that has such like a either cultural impact or has like this sort of cult following that like that Strangers with Candy did that was like very irreverent and obscure and kind of offensive also, but at the same time like it was just such a particular niche of a show that I thought was just so funny and brilliant that I loved that one. And also kind of in the same vein, like we were saying, that had a cultural impact. I think Phoebe Waller-Bridge from the show Fleabag, like I absolutely like to have kind of maybe a career like hers would be absolutely, my dream or ideal that, she took her one woman show that she wrote, that she performed, in theaters like from Fringe in Edinburgh to here, like in New York at the Soho Playhouse, to then the National Theater, and then created the show Fleabag that then was on Amazon. That was this massive, massive, huge hit, just based off of, her own storytelling and her own creativity. And like she did it in such in a beautiful way that like I just adore her and I would love to have a career like hers for sure.
Yeah, I've mentioned this in previous episodes. Robin Williams and Jim Carrey,
Oh,
the comedians that are like really they go a mile a minute with their comedy, and yet they have this uncontainable energy. Their improv and just everything that they do is like wow. Like particularly what Robin did, like he can be like one moment you could just be busting a gut laughing, and then at the next moment he can really tug at the heartstrings. Like
yeah,
he proves that he was such a great dramatic actor as much as he was a great comedic actor.
yeah.
I was recently just watching an episode of Law and Order, and he did a guest appearance on that show,
Oh,
and
how
I was
funny.
like, wow, yeah, yeah, because like Law and Order was based in NY, New York, so I just got to mention that because
Yeah.
because I know I've interviewed a lot of voiceover talent that have guests that have made appearances on that show, and like remembering Robin of what he did, it's like, yeah,
Yeah.
it's like, you know, if somebody was like really giving it their all and just really was able, like, I know that he had his own struggles, and I totally, it's really sad about what happened, but at the end of the day, it's like he really did, he
Yeah.
really did bring smiles to a lot of people. That's pretty much the
Yeah.
bottom line of what I'm,
Yeah.
without getting, too depressing.
No, no, no. I feel actually the same way too. I mean, he was my entire childhood, like, I mean, literally
Totally.
everything
Yeah.
from Aladdin, Jumanji, Hook, Mrs. Doubtfire,
Yeah.
Jack, like you could literally
Oh
flubber. You can
yeah,
go on and
Jack.
on and on and
Oh
on and
yeah, yeah.
on. You watched, like, he was
Night at
like,
the museum.
yeah, Night at the Museum. Yeah, Dead Poets Society, The Birdcage. Like he had
Yes.
like
Oh
this,
my gosh, yes. Dead
yeah,
Poet Society. Yes.
yeah. He had so many movies that, yeah, that showed especially like his range where it was just like I mean, his genius in terms of the way that his mind worked, but then also like his humanity and his tenderness that he worked from like a place that, as we now know, like definitely came from a very real place of like of from his own kind of personal life, and
Yeah.
that he was able to sort of tap into in a way that is very, very, very rare for performers to do. And actually, one of my teachers worked with him on a Broadway play that was years ago. It was called the Bengal Tiger at the Baghdad Zoo, and hearing him talk about how Robin Williams used to work, I mean, it was just, I was just in awe just listening to him talk about that because you go, wow, like he really was like just such a genius. And yeah, I agree. So he's definitely an influence for sure too.
Yeah. So I know you've talked about teaching, coaching. I think you kind of discussed about how you sort of started, but I wanted to ask, like, what are some of the biggest, like, lessons, or what did you really enjoy the most? Because I know you've been acting for a long time. So how's the whole experience like being on the other side of the glass, getting to direct and coach students and other actors with their careers and their little paths and journeys? Like, how does it, like, for coaching and just teaching students, like, okay, so um this can be helpful, da 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 da. What do you really enjoy the most out of it? How does it fulfill you on a personal and spiritual level? If we're
Hmm.
gonna go with that, if we're gonna get into the deep philosophical questions that I
Yeah.
sometimes like to do.
Yeah, I like that too. I mean,
Yeah.
what's funny is that you mentioned or you just said it like where you go, well, now that you've sort of crossed, quote unquote, crossed over to the other side where you're now like kind of doing it, in this way that you're offering or that you're coming from a place of like knowledge or that you know, or as if like I think the biggest lesson for me is that like you never really stop learning. You know what I mean? If anything, like you never stop learning. And you also, I think for me to sort of teach my students and to say like, hey, by the way, like I still go through the same struggles too. Like I still actually kind of come up against the same wall of being like, oh, I don't really know kind of what I'm supposed to do in the script, or like, oh man, like I really didn't feel like that was good enough, or hey, I just like, I love that what has taught me the lesson of just being like, hey, I get it. Not only have I been there, but I can still be there too. Like I still kind of go through the same things, yeah, that you're going through. And that's okay. You know what I mean? Because we're always you all you can do is just keep improving and keep being better for yourself. You know what I mean? And for nobody else, not for like because you want the job, or of course you want the job, but also like, you know, just know that sometimes it's just not about you. You know what I mean? Like you don't get the job because not a no doesn't mean like it not good. You know what I mean? It just means that they just preferred something else, and that has no reflection on you. And I don't think that I really kind of got that for a long time until, especially when I started teaching, you know what I mean? And especially once I started doing voiceover, I would literally be sitting on the couch and there's maybe like 10 commercials that I auditioned for that then like come on and, they all of a sudden the commercial that I auditioned for, they went with a male voice instead. And I went, oh, well, it had nothing to do with me. You know what I mean? Um, and so, yeah, I think that that's kind of the biggest lesson that I would say is that like, or the biggest takeaway, at least that I learned from my students is that like, oh, I can relate. And because I've been there and also like, I still go through what you probably are going through too. I'm in it also. It's like, because I'm still a student myself.
We're human.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So I can also discuss like, websites, demos, pretty much the business stuff. And I think this is all kind of what you touch upon when you're coaching with students. But for you personally, how long did it take you to build, all this stuff, like building a resume and doing all this stuff, like being an entrepreneur?
Yeah, well, I'm still kind of doing it. I'm still kind of doing
Yeah.
it. But like I said, I started doing voiceover in 2019, and um, well, I started working. I took that class in 2018, and then I started working with CESD in January of 2019, and in that first month, I booked 3 commercials, and so I had those as like things that I could add then to my demo. But there's actually I think that the misconception with voiceover is that like it seems that it's really kind of hard to get into, or it's sort of hard to get all these materials, like how do I get a demo, or how can I you know where can I get started. It all feels like either really expensive or feels like really impossible, and it's actually not as complicated as people think. And so what I did is that when I was starting my demo, I had the materials or the things that I already had booked. Um, and I added that to then just recordings that then I self-produced myself, which is basically like which is what everybody else can do too, that if you don't have any actual work that you've booked, you can actually just record yourself from home. And there's either royalty-free websites that you can get music then that you can add to put over then like your recordings, or you could just put these recordings on your website, but obviously make sure that like your sound quality is top tier, and that you don't necessarily have to spend the most money on a microphone, but do your research to see what for people who are starting out in voiceover is a good quality microphone to start with, and then just put them on your website. And if somebody asks you, like when you audition for a job and they say, are these jobs that you booked, and you don't have to lie, you just say, hey, yeah, I just actually self-produced these myself, you know what I mean, just so that you guys can hear like the quality of my sound and things like that. um does that make sense? Did I answer your question?
Totally. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, so if you're just starting out, like again, you know do your research first on the materials that you would need, and do it based off of like say by your research saying, hey, I'm new at this, so what would be the best microphone to start with for people who are new in voiceover. And on the internet is our best friend now, because Google, there's so much on Google of like of that has like all the resources you need. And then also on YouTube, there's YouTube videos of how you can learn how to use these recording programs, whether it be Audacity, which is free. So you don't have to pay for a subscription for that, or Reaper, which is another one. But there are YouTube videos that will teach you then how to download it and then how to use it. And then from there, just then start practicing, um, and then that's like, yeah, and also too, but like definitely, but always constantly be honing your skills, like get yourself in an acting class, get yourself maybe, or find a voiceover coach, that could help you, if you want to work one-on-one. Yeah, so I think that those are like kind of like the great places to start first.
oh, yeah. I totally agree. There's like a lot of resources that you can look into online. Highly recommend. Like if you want a quick fix for like podcasts or like interviews and stuff, VO Buzz Weekly, Voiceover Mastery, I want to be a voice actor.com. Uh,
Mhm.
there's so many books like the voiceover voice actor. I'm just I'm just literally naming some of the biggest ones. And
Yeah.
there's definitely websites where you could get started. And I know there's like, but I must stress this that improv is highly instrumental. Like, I
Yeah.
cannot recommend improv enough. And
Yeah.
also joining like your local like acting classes or anywhere that's like offering courses on like, okay, so approaching a scene or just da 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 da. Like Zoom is also really good, but I think being in person just you get that little it really helps you feed off the energy of the other actors, especially if you're doing like improvisational comedy, sketch comedy. I know a couple of friends who've done like groundlings like over
Mhm.
here in LA, so I know that's a really good resource that I'm
Mhm.
actually might look into. So
Yeah.
um
Yeah, definitely.
yeah, so originally based in New Jersey, I mean, I know that you're kind of like in the East Coast area. So how would you describe like the lifestyle over there? Because I know we discussed feel, but just general life.
Expensive.
So is
Expensive.
California.
Yeah. Yeah. But I
Just
mean,
still trying to make pay the
yeah,
rent each month.
I know. I know. I know. It's
The
expensive,
big
but
sob.
well, that's
Yeah.
the, I know, exactly. That's no, that's the first thing that comes to mind. But I mean, how would I describe the lifestyle? I feel like, here in New York and New Jersey, people are just, um, unapologetically themselves, they're, they are who they are. You sort of take it or leave it. And but I also find that sometimes, like, there's the stereotype that then people are here are not as nice. And I think they're very kind. I think people might not be nice, but they're kind. And I've heard the reverse about California, where people are kind but not nice. I don't know. That's probably, those are just all stereotypes that are like,
Accurate actually.
oh, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
it's that New Yorkers, like, they are who they are, and it's take it or leave it. But at the same time, like, I love the freedom that people live their life by over here, and like sort of the philosophy of like, just embracing their own individual unique selves. That is like so cool. And I love that.
Yeah. It's silly because like whenever I get an audition and it says New Yorker, I'm like, get out of here, you know? What do I want to do? Like, do I want to do a Joe Pesci, Robert De Niro? What do I want to do? Surprise, what do I want to do? What do I want to do with this? And then I just
Yeah.
kind of, I mean, it's so easy because like, my family is from the South, but
Mhm.
I think it's kind of like when you've actually lived like in New York, like when you meet friends and family that are from like that area, you kind of start
Mhm.
picking up on like the mannerisms and characteristics. It just
Yeah.
comes really easily. I have no
Yeah.
idea
And I
why,
mean,
but
it's
yeah.
for sure. It's not even like, and I mean, even just sort of like maybe not necessarily that you have to even put on an accent, but it's like, it's the essence, it's a quality. It's like,
Yes.
eh, that's like, kind of the archetype, meaning like it's an attitude, it's an attitude that you bring that New Yorkers have that you want to obviously like kind of convey that sort of essence of it, you know?
Yeah. So as a foodie, because I like food,
Yeah.
um, what's your favorites?
Oh my gosh. I mean, French fries. I will have French
Yes,
fries.
let's go.
Yeah. Or actually just like potatoes, like really a starch, any type of starch. I mean, so I'll have potatoes anyway. I'll have it baked, I'll have it fried, I'll have them julienne. I don't care. I mean, mashed potatoes. I just love potatoes, but my favorite form of potatoes are in French fries, and I will have French fries any time of day. I will never get full on them. I could just eat and eat and eat and eat French fries all day long. And I say this all the time, like, if I get a salad, I get a side of French fries with it. So French fries, yeah.
Pasta too? Kind of a silly
Oh,
question, I know.
oh yeah, of course pasta too, of course. But pasta kind of hurts my belly a little bit. So like, but
Ah,
yes, but I still eat
uh,
it. I mean, I still eat it. But it just,
I'm in
I just
pain,
don't
but
sit
I
that.
gotta still eat the pasta.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
But yeah, this has been a lot of fun. So, is there anything else that you want to discuss, like any upcoming like work that you want to plug?
Yeah, I mean, well, I mean, am available and open for like one-on-one coaching. So if you guys, whoever's listening, if you would be interested in, if you're wanting to get started in VO, or already are a VO actor, but then want to just need help with any audition or anything like that, you can head over to my website. It's simoneserra.com, and it's Sarah spelled Serra. And there's a coaching tab that's like on my website that if you click on that, there's a link to all of my services of what I offer then for coaching. And then there's a Calendly link that then once you hit that, that has all of the times that I have available for coaching. And yeah, and I hope that I get to meet some of you if you're interested.
Right on. And do you have like any favorite like media, like shows or movies or just anything that you study or just that you enjoy that you want to give recommendations for? Because I could
Oh,
certainly use some.
yeah. Just I would just say go support your local theaters. You know what I mean? Go see like any type of play that is nearby or near you. I mean, I just saw there's a lot of great, obviously great theater here in New York, but off Broadway is also where I've seen some of like the best work. I just saw a play here on the East Coast. That was at Soho Playhouse. That was fantastic. So I would just say, just go out and just see any type of like new theater or new show that's out there and go support it.
Yep.
Yeah.
And other fun facts about you, or do we cover them all?
um, hmm. Other fun facts about me? That's like yeah. I mean, do I? I mean, I'm a cat mom. I love my boy Franklin. I mean, I actually am a dog. I am a dog person. Like, I love dogs, but also here in New York, well, not that it's. I mean, people have dogs here in New York, of course, but like, it just is easier. I live on a 4-floor walk up, so it's easier to not have to go up and down the stairs to take my dog out for a walk. So, a cat was just easier, but I am obsessed with my cat.
That's so cute.
Yeah. He's a
Yeah,
sweet boy.
we all love fur balls.
Yeah.
Yeah, we love cats. Let me see. And I know that there's been a lot of stuff that's been happening. Like, I've touched upon this in the previous episodes, but I know we're still kind of in the midst of strikes, but that's like a whole different episode on its own. Um, so I guess my last question for you is, yeah, any last bit of advice to those that want to do this? And where do you see the future going for everything moving forward? Whether it's the industry, live, strike, just anything that you want to close us out on.
Yeah. I mean, um, I would say just my best advice is that just to be kind to yourself, be kind to yourself, especially when you're first starting out on something new. Just know that like that you know, don't stop yourself from wanting to do what it is that you want to do, and that you can achieve it, and if you are enough and you are deserving and worthy of whatever it is that you want. So be kind to yourself, that then if you want to go after whatever it is that you want, to do that with kindness and patience with yourself. So yeah, that's my best advice, I think.
Yeah, and everything regarding like what's been happening in the industry or just everything moving forward? Where do you see everything in the future? I know it's kind of like a
Oh,
really broad question, but I'm
yeah.
just
I
kind of
mean,
curious.
right. I mean, we can't obviously predict what's going to happen or when this is going to end, but I think the best outcome we can see is the fact that the writer strike is over and that they were able to
Yeah.
achieve what it is that they wanted. And so that is definitely a very hopeful um, outcome for everyone. And I would just say, um, I would say just to really get yourself involved, get yourself involved in classes, get yourself involved in, even if you doing your own type of work, you know what I mean? Don't wait just for the strike, then for the work to come back to you. You should
Mhm.
be creating your own stuff. And then so that then you can say to whoever it is that then you want either representation for or to promote, to be like, this is what I was doing while this was going on, and I'm really proud of it. And so hope you enjoy.
Pretty much what I'm doing right now.
Yeah,
Check out
exactly.
this podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, it's
and
so good to talk to you.
you too. And I also want to give a shout out to the voiceover pivot, another
Oh,
podcast that you were just on recently.
the artist pivot. Yeah.
Artist pivot.
Ayana.
Yeah,
Yeah, Ayana Bay. Yeah. She was a friend of mine. I was just on her podcast a couple of weeks ago. Yeah, go listen to the artist pivot. That was a little bit more of a longer conversation, but yeah, she's amazing.
yeah. Definitely check that out. And I know y'all had a lot of fun, so check out her stuff. She makes really good. She makes good stuff. So,
Yeah.
yeah, just want to give her a shout out. And you want to know what the best part about doing all of this is for VO is that we can literally just do this in our pajamas. Like, let's just be real.
Yeah.
In our
Right.
PJs.
Exactly.
Yeah, I'm not exactly the most. I mean, I just got this on. I mean, because I love Mario, but you know what? Sleep in it, and we can still work. Just wake up and just do this every day, and then just make weird noises or scream, sometimes for money, sometimes to wreck our throats. But you know what? It's worth it.
It's worth
But
it.
definitely take care. Like vocal health is important. Like I can't stress that enough. Definitely take
Yeah.
care of yourself, and self care is fine.
Yes.
I know it's easier said than done when it's like maybe I should just rest today, but it's like gotta work.
Yeah.
It really do be like that, man. But regardless, thank you for coming. Any last words that you want to say, like any
Well,
goodbyes or?
thank you so much for having me. I really appreciated it. And it means a lot that you wanted me to come on. So thank you so much.
I mean, you're really cool.
Oh, thanks. You too.
Thank you. And I wanted to have more in New York. I mean, I've done like interviews with Texas and LA talent, but I haven't really done a lot that are like in the New York, Brooklyn.
Happy to help.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
And regardless, thank you for watching. There will be more episodes on the way. My schedule is very erratic as it is, but there will if it doesn't go up by today, then definitely tomorrow. No
Cool.
promises. But regardless, thank you for watching. Stay tuned and keep crushing it out there. Punch failure every day in the face. And until then, love y'all and have a lovely rest of October. Happy Halloween, I guess. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Bye.
Any Halloween plans?
Yeah, I'm going over to a friend's house.
Okay, cool.
Yeah,
Definitely keep me posted about it and tell me what happens and what y'all gonna be doing and
for
let me know
sure.
why.
For sure.
Yeah. But anyways, this is Robert. Thank you for watching and I'll see y'all next time. Bye bye.
Bye.
Peace.